Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into episode 19 of the Just Hone In podcast. It's been a while, Adam. It's been a while, but it's with your hosts, Justin Mazzola and the
Adam Honer.
Last time we filmed an episode was April 2nd. So we're filming today's episode on May 21st, and it's been a while. Been busy. But, episode 19, we're going to try to make it a good one.
100%. I'm excited to get into it. It's been a little while, but it's always a good time chirping it up. So
yeah, and you're in your new your new place. How's that?
New place, got a little bit of an upgrade. So
very nice. See, the podcast is paying as well, allowing us to.
No comment. No comment. I can't comment if I'm getting paid. No comment.
But it is May 21st, and today was a crazy, crazy NBA playoff game. We're now in the Western and Eastern Conference Finals stage of the NBA playoffs. Today, the Pacers played the Knicks in New York in a crazy, crazy game in which the Knicks absolutely choked the game away, losing to the Pacers 138-135 in overtime. And this kind of works out perfectly because I watched the second half of this game and the end of the fourth quarter, and my partner here, Adam, watched overtime. I sadly could not watch overtime, which was crazy in and of itself because I had a men's league basketball game to attend to. But the end of regulation was absolutely insane. With 59 seconds left, the Knicks were up 9 points. Brunson hits a layup. And Mr. Aaron Nesmith on the Pacers decides, it's my time. He hits a three. Okay. The Knicks then go down and score a layup with Karl Anthony Towns. Gets the lead back up to 8. Nesmith, another three. Knicks, turnover. Nesmith, another three. And now in a span of 30 seconds, there was 59 seconds left. Now there's 26. In a span of 30-ish seconds, the Pacers find themselves down only 2 points. And after a series of missed free throws and made free throws by the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton had a crazy play where he drove in the lane, then had to backpedal out, shoots a high arcing, what was thought to be a three for the game winner, hits the back rim, bounces sky high up to the rafters practically, and then drops back down in. They all go crazy thinking they won the game. Tyrese Halliburton does the famous Reggie Miller choke, which happened against the Knicks. And it gets ruled a 2 because his foot's on the line, and it goes to overtime. But the Pacers have all the momentum. And Adam, what happened in overtime?
Well, I first want to mention that Tyrese shot. I think it reminded me of the shots Justin used to hit against me in 2K.
Right. The 2K bounce.
The 2K bounce, dude. I was making tacos and I got a text in the group chat. And it's like, dude, this Pacers Knicks game's insane. I go check my phone. It's like 125, end of regulation. Holy crap. I totally forgot about this game. So I ended up turning it on and overtime. I feel like the whole game was just like the overtime. It just seemed like, all right, whoever has the ball last is going to win. It was just bucket. They're just trading buckets. Tyrese was doing his thing. He's amazing. Jalen Brunson with another 40 piece. He's amazing. I mean, I think both those guys are top 10 players in the NBA now, especially with these playoff performances. But yeah, I mean, it ended up coming to the fact where the Pacers ended up just edging it at the end. Obi Toppin had some crucial dunks at the end, and it came down to, I think it was like a 2 or 3 point game. Knicks come down with 20 seconds. They try to hit Jalen Brunson off a curl coming up. Pass it to him. Nembhard gets a touch, and it looks like it comes off Brunson as well, but they call it Knicks ball. But then the Pacers challenge it, and we look at the replay, and it 100% hit Jalen Brunson. The first replay hit Jalen Brunson, and that was pretty much all she wrote. I mean, the Knicks had another chance to tie the game up, but they missed 2 threes. People were flying all over the floor. Jalen Brunson airball a 3, then Josh Hart's on the ground, and then pass out the cat. He misses a 3, and then McCall's on the ground, and it was a total mess, and it was a total play. I can't believe a foul wasn't even called because there's so many bodies flying. But Pacers ended up getting the ball with like 0.2 seconds left, and that was it. So, I mean, all I'm gonna say is like this series is not close to over. It's gonna go 6 or 7 games in my opinion. These teams are so even. I think we saw it a little bit last year in that Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yeah, it went to
That
7
the winner,
games.
the Pacers had that, and I mean the Knicks. They were shorthanded, but I feel like the teams are all healthy now, and it's pretty even. And I mean this is gonna be a great series. I think it's gonna be super competitive.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Brunson had 43 points, and Karl Anthony Towns had 35 points.
He's been a huge
So
pickup for the Knicks, and I think that was the piece that they really needed to be able to push to like a championship level team, and they're almost there. So
yeah, but to combine for your top two players to combine for 78 points, and you come away with an L is a tough pill to swallow. But on the flip side, Tyrese Halliburton had 31 points, Neesmith had 30, and they had solid contributors throughout with Pascal, Miles Turner, Nemhard. Just solid play from them, and they pull out a victory in Madison Square Garden, a crucial game one victory. And like, I think to your point, it could easily go 7 games. But this has got to be a crushing loss for the Knicks. They got to really just try their hardest to forget about it, and it's tough to do that after you basically had the game in the bag, being up 9 points with less than a minute left, getting top performances from Brunson and Towns. And like Brunson had 5 fouls in like to start the fourth quarter, or maybe it was even in the third. Like he had to sit, and the Knicks went on a 16 to like 2 run. Like they ended up being up by 16. It was crazy. Like the Knicks were actually better from a plus minus perspective with Brunson off the court, which is like that doesn't happen.
yeah, I think it
And
might
then they
just be
come to blow
coincidental.
the lead, and it's just like, and it wasn't necessarily Brunson's fault. Like he had 43 points. It's just 2 highly skilled offensive teams going back and forth. But man, to not pull this one out for the
I
Knicks in
mean,
their home
I
court
think
is
we're at the
tough.
point, like, especially like I think even last year's, you're at the point where you can't even really criticize the teams because like these are the best teams, like they are playing, and it's like it's just who edges out the other team better. Everyone could be doing everything right, and it could be such a close game, and it only comes down to a couple plays to decide the game, and that's really what happened. But I mean, to your point about like forgetting it, I mean, I feel like they've been like these teams have been in enough playoff series already. There's somewhat playoff experience. I mean, they had last year as well. So I think they'll be able to come back to game 2 and they'll show another exciting game, I think. But
Yeah,
that
and
series is gonna be really fun. So.
these playoffs have been huge for Tyrese Halliburton specifically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
He
think
was,
ever since that whole narrative where he was voted the most overrated player in the league, like I
yeah,
think he's definitely flipped it on his head because he hasn't really said anything about it. I don't think, but he's
no,
really
he's
shown.
had 2 game winners in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. One against the Bucks to close out the series, and one against the Cavs off another crazy play.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has the game tying shot that everybody thought was a game winner,
Yeah.
but it just came time to send it to overtime. I mean, he's playing incredibly well. Like I think in the playoffs, he's only had one kind of bad game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gonna happen, especially at a guard playing as a guard. Like not, he's not necessarily physically imposing, but
Mm-hmm.
man, you're right. After being voted most overrated, he has just torn the league to shreds.
I
Um,
mean, that's not gonna be the vote next year. I hope not, because I mean that would be.
yeah, and it was like luckily it's not an actual award. It's the players voting on a
But
survey
still,
and
it
stuff.
has a
But
stigma
that's
behind it, and
yeah, it's 100%,
and
100%. I
people are
mean,
going to be talking
it's an
about it. And
insult for sure.
it adds like a label for sure. So, I mean, that's good for him because like I don't think he's overrated. I, don't, I didn't. I was kind of like I was confused when I saw that, but I mean, you got to pick somebody, I guess. But I mean, he's just really shown everyone that like he can carry a team in the playoffs. Carry to. I mean, I don't know about carry, but I mean, like he's the guy. He's leading his team to
Yeah,
like Eastern Conference Finals back to back seasons.
and when he's not scoring, I mean, he's a guy who can easily lead the league in assists. He had 11
Yeah,
assists
he
tonight.
even had a great play in clutch moments. He had a great play in overtime where he had a wide open three, pump faked, and then he did like a little like dish, so cutting them hard for a layup to go up. So I mean, even making plays like that, like in really crucial situations, because I feel like some stars can get like tunnel vision when it comes down to these like crucial moments where you really need a score, but it's like
Yeah.
what, like he's so much of a creative player that like in moments like that he can not only like create a great shot for himself, but he can also create a shot for somebody else in crunch time. So I think that's really impressive. And to be honest, I could say the same for Jalen Brunson, man. That man is amazing. And, I know he lost, but I mean, like, he did so well in that Celtics series. Like, granted, Tatum was
Yeah.
out, but I mean, they won the first two games with Tatum. So, like,
And the when they went up 3-1, I
mm-hmm,
mean, Tatum was in that game the whole time. Like when he
mm-hmm,
got hurt, OG got the steal and they were up, by like 9-ish points at that point. And that's when
mm-hmm,
Tatum had a 40+ point game. And so the the Knicks were already handling that series with or without Tatum. But yeah, that very unfortunate for him to go down with the torn Achilles. But yeah, I mean Brunson's been dominating. The Knicks have been dominating these playoffs. Um, and yeah, that game 2 is gonna have a lot of hype around it, a lot of just like meaning. I mean, the Knicks, they went up 2-0 after having to play in Boston those first two games. They and with having Madison Square Garden as your home court is a huge advantage. They can't go down 0-2 heading into
yeah,
Indiana.
agreed,
Um,
agreed. Well, I want to flip it over to the Western Conference Finals because I think that series is exciting as well. I don't know if it'll be as close, just because I feel like the Knicks and Pacers are like even like like if I had to put odds on the series, I'll put it at -110. To start the series. But I think the Thunder are the favorites to win that to win the Western Conference Finals, and they showed it in Game 1. They played really well. They really turned it on when they really needed to, and I mean it's the SGA show. It's the SGA show. That man knows how to play. I mean, he's like, you watch Jalen Brunson and Tyrese, and they're amazing. Don't get me wrong. But Shea, I just feel like is another level.
yeah, and to that point, today it was announced that he won the Most Valuable Player award,
Mm-hmm.
MVP, and I think deservedly so. I think he was competing with Nikola Jokic,
Mm-hmm.
who he and him and his team beat in 7 games against Denver, the round prior. And Jokic
He was the
had
best
an
player on the
incredible
best team.
season.
Yeah, best
Yeah,
player on the best team.
but I
Yeah.
mean, he led his team to a 60+ win season, and he won the scoring title
Mm-hmm.
for this. Like he's got to win MVP. Obviously, the Thunder are very very well rounded. He gets a lot of I'd say even contribution from everybody. And you can argue that Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets weren't as deep of a team. But I still think Denver had one of the best starting fives in the
Oh,
NBA.
100%. And even they had Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, who I think really, I think this was his best season in the six-man role. So I feel like a lot of his struggles, it's a tough transition, coming from a superstar, best player on your team, you have all the shots, you know what I mean? And then like trying to, fit into that six-man role and like, it wasn't easy, like think about his time with the Lakers. Like it was so like hit or miss. But I feel like with the Nuggets now, like he's really like, coming with his stride. And you kind of saw that, like he played a lot of minutes, and I mean he was a key reason why the Nuggets did so well this season. But I mean, just the Thunder outdid them. I mean, the Nuggets competed. Like I think the Nuggets are always going to be competitive every year just because they have Jokic and they have a great team built around him. But I mean, the Thunders are just so good, and they turned it on in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals.
Yeah, and in the game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
the game was pretty evenly matched for most of for all the Minnesota was up at halftime. It's pretty evenly matched through the start of the third quarter, And then OKC just went on, I think, like a 17-2 run, and Minnesota was turning the ball over, which we saw a lot of for the Denver Nuggets in that Game 7. I think 7 players on Denver had more than 2 turnovers. That's already 14 turnovers. For OKC, who's really good at in the fast break. And so, Minnesota was turning the ball over. They were just chucking up threes and missing them. And OKC just kept on going and pushing. And then, what did they end up winning by? Like,
it was like 20, 25 points.
Yeah, the final score was 114-88. And I feel like, yeah, the Thunder outscored them 32-18 in the third quarter. And then they outscored them 38-22 in the fourth. So OKC in the second half turned it on and never looked back. I do think that the Timberwolves can bounce back from this. I don't know, like you said, if it'll be as close of a series as this Knicks Pacers. I think both series could go 7 games, but I think there's going to be more blowout victories in the OKC Timberwolves series. Like it could be, a few close ones, and then like Minnesota blows them out, and OKC blew them out in Game 1. And so I think it might be like that. Like I still think Minnesota has the ability in the roster. They got 8 guys in the rotation. I mean, all solid, all starting
with
worthy.
Anthony Edwards. I mean,
yeah,
you have Anthony Edwards. Like he's insane.
He's an animal.
I mean, all 4 of the stars on these teams are insane. But I mean, Anthony Edwards has the ability to take over. But I mean, I think the shooting was really bad for the Timberwolves in Game 1. Naz Reid and DiVincenzo had pretty brutal games, which, I mean, granted they're bench players, but I mean, you expect some, like, they expect production out of them. They have a pretty deep team. Like they pretty much go 8 deep with their starting line of DiVincenzo, Reid, and Alexander Walker. So like, I don't know.
And it's a solid 8.
Yeah, they're a deep team, and I mean that's why they were able to do so well against the Lakers and the Warriors in their previous series. But I felt like for how good their team is, granted they were the 6th seed, right?
Yeah, they were the 6th seed, but like.
But what I was saying is, granted, like I think those series were a bit too competitive. If you're wanting to, and like if you're wanting to beat the Thunder in the series, you do got to pick it up a bit.
Yeah, and I mean the Thunder have had an incredible season. I didn't realize. I knew they were a 60+ team, winning team, like 60+ wins. But they had 68 wins. They went 68-14, which is only 4 games off of the Chicago Bulls record of 70-12, and then OKC. I mean, the Warriors beat that, but only like by
they're
1
7
game.
games off from that. That's not too far. Like.
And, towards the end of the season, they were definitely resting Shea at times, resting other players. They didn't need to go for it because they had, the 2 seed was 16 games back. But yeah, Minnesota, like you said, the 6th seed. But Houston, 52 wins. Lakers, 50. Denver, 50. Clippers, 50. Minnesota, 49. The West was tight. So they're a 6th seed, and they kind of had a slow start to the season due to a lot of injuries, but finished the season really strong to get into that 6th spot. And now, things have been clicking for them. Those eight players have been playing really well. But like you said, Alexander Walker, Naz Reid, and DiVincenzo had terrible games. Naz Reid went 1 for 11 from the field. DiVincenzo 3 for 14, and Alexander Walker 3 for 11. So a combined 7 for near 40. I mean, you can't have that from your 3 guys off the bench.
Well, I do want to talk about our Lakers. I think it's time. I think we have to
the loss of the Timberwolves in the round 1.
I think might have been the reason why Might have been the reason why the podcast was delayed, or a little bit of a hiatus was because of this. But and I know that people want to hear about this, because our listeners know we're Lakers fans, so I think it's
And they
time we
all
address it.
don't like the Lakers, so it kind of works out for them. But yeah, I mean the Lakers losing 4-1 to the Timberwolves, lost game 1, won game 2, tied 1-1 heading into Minnesota, and then proceeded to go on a 3-game losing streak. It was a disappointing series. I think it's similar to how the past few seasons have gone, where in the playoffs, like when we played the Nuggets in the previous two postseasons, we were with the Nuggets through 43 minutes of a game, 43 out of the 48. And in the last 5 minutes, we can't close and the other team does. And I think the same thing happened in a lot of these games against Minnesota. And LeBron had a near 40-point outing against Minnesota in Minnesota, and we lose. Like, that just can't happen. It was on a game in which Luka Doncic was basically playing sick, so that was unlucky. But I mean, in totality, we were too small.
Yeah,
we were too small.
Undersized. That was the number one thing.
We got bullied.
Number one thing I grabbed when I was watching Game 5, and like I haven't like raged the Lakers in a while. But after seeing Rudy Gobert go 30 points and 25 rebounds, I wanted to throw my phone into my TV screen. Like,
especially since the first 4 games, like Rudy was a force in the paint, more so not even from a statistical standpoint, but just always being there and us either having to foul him or like, since we'd have to put 2 or 3 guys on him, someone else would then get the ball. But then in Game 5, he just totally torched us. And to lose the last game of the series to him,
grabbing rebounds without even jumping, like looked like okay. I watch him play, and I really think he's like he looks like he's playing JV. Like, I don't know like what it is, but like I don't understand it. I really don't, because like the way he plays, it just looks like he doesn't like train. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's very
so uncoordinated.
Very uncoordinated, like extremely uncoordinated. I 100%
some of the
agree. You see him
misses, and oh my!
You see him in the pick and roll, and even in his last game against the Thunder, like he sets a screen. Great screen setter. He sets wonderful screen. He's a big body, knows how to set a screen. He gets the roll, he gets the pass, and he's just like he can't. He's like moving so slow, awkwardly. Like it's as if, I mean, he's got to be in his late 20s or maybe even 30.
But he's been in the league for a while now. He's been in the league for a while.
It's as if he's still like growing into his body, which normally, would happen early on.
He still looks like one of these 19-year-olds that it's like been, brought overseas to develop and like never really played basketball. He still plays like that. And he's an all-star. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Watching him shoot a free throw. Oh my gosh, dude. And the problem is, that's the reason it was even more frustrating, is because it was him dominating against us. Like, you just needed a body out there. You just needed a body out there. And I know you want to play small.
And you see that with this Thunder series. I'm looking at his stat line. He had 2 points and 3 rebounds. They got Chet and they got Isaiah Hartenstein out there.
And I think that's
if they need Jalen Williams, like they got all the bigs. Is the same reason why the Thunder was able to beat Jokic. They had all these bigs just trying to, even Jokic would pop off, but like making it tough on him and not giving him like these 25 rebound games, which Jokic can do.
Well, that's why like a player like Chet is like so great for the Thunder, is because he's so versatile. Like, first of all, offensively he plays like a guard, but defensively he's pretty phenomenal. I mean, granted, he's undersized, and I think the Thunder would run into a lot of problems if he was the full-time 5.
which was what happened last postseason
right? And they
when
struggled, yeah.
exactly. And
And
then
they
they brought in
they brought in
Hartenstein, Jalen
Hartenstein.
Williams playing a bigger role.
Mhm.
It's been phenomenal
And
for Chet
exactly,
and
and
his
what you can
productivity.
do is you can be very flexible with your lineups because Hartenstein plays his role very well.
Extremely well.
He's
So good.
very physical, great rebounder, solid touch around the rim, allows Chet to, be a little more free flowing in the offense, as a four. But if you want to go small, you put in Chet at the 5, and you're not even that small.
Yeah.
You can play a 5 out. You play smaller, but you're not playing small. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I mean, he's extremely tall and lanky. And obviously he gives up size from a weight perspective. He's
mhm,
he's a Lankmeister. He's very skinny. But he's like you said, like he's can still play defense in times where they need to
mhm,
give Hartenstein a break or go small. And he's a great shot blocker.
mhm.
And like, I mean, I
and
think
and I think because I think I know we have some Kings listeners, but I think like one of the issues is like Sabonis is a tweener, and he plays mostly the 5. I mean, you started to see some success a little bit when you started to play Valanciunas with him because you could actually give Sabonis some breathing room.
yeah,
He's not having to deal with your Steven Adams, your Jokic's, your big body centers. Because I mean, Sabonis is big, but he's not that like he's undersized compared to those guys.
yeah,
And I mean, if you're the Kings, you want to have a little more flexibility where it's like, hey, we can have a guy where we bring in and Sabonis can be a 4 and he can be a little more, flexible. He can carry the burden a little more offensively because he's not having to worry about so much more on defense and getting beat up all the time. And you have that flexibility like you do with the Thunder. But that's a quick tangent for our Kings listeners. But I do want to get back to the Lakers because I think it's fair for the listeners wanting to hear us talk about that. I just want to hear from you is, what's the plan now?
I mean, so when I don't know, there's always the what if, right? I don't know how much of a difference the Mark Williams trade would have made, but I do know that it likely, it wouldn't have hurt. He's
It would have
he's
helped. I think
he's
it would have
he's
helped. I really
he's
do think it would
yeah,
have.
he's like I mean, I haven't watched a lot of this game. He doesn't seem like necessarily the most physically imposing player, but I
Mm-hmm,
mean, he's strong, he's wide, like he could
mm-hmm.
hold his own, 100% he
But
could.
he's
And
a starting center in the NBA, and you like
7'1",
he's better than
he's
Dorian
got the I
Finney-Smith
think
at
he's
the
got the
5.
tallest standing reach in the
Huh.
league.
Well, it's
I
better.
think
Yeah, it's better than
I
Dorian
was
Finney-Smith at the 5. And
yeah.
like also, I think that like Connect didn't really play. Connect didn't play much in the
See,
playoffs, and
that would
that's
be my
the
next point.
issues because we were talking about it. When the trade first came out, we were like, it's tough to see him go. But at this point, when
100%.
you're thinking about it, as a roster, constructing your roster, you need to be well rounded. And the Lakers are guard heavy. They have a ton of guards. And
Yeah.
Connect was just kind of, like he's a great promising young player and he's going to be something in the league. And, for the Hornets, he probably would have been, I think, a starter at the
Yeah.
3. I don't really know the roster, off the top of my head that well for the Hornets, but
He
you
would
get
have
my
gotten
point.
he would have got a lot of minutes
And it's
nevertheless.
like, it sucks. Like you bring in a guy, you traded someone to bring in a guy that would have played, but then since the trade didn't happen, the guy that you did trade didn't really play. So like I think the team would have been a little bit better because you're dealing with the same rotation with just a big. So
Yeah, I think like you said when the trade first came out,
mm-hmm,
I was like, "Oh, this is exciting. We're going to get a center because we only had Jackson Hayes, who I think Jackson Hayes played terrific
mm-hmm,
when he was the only center on the roster post trade deadline. But he got shut down like he was irrelevant in the
mm-hmm,
Timberwolves series. The big thing from Jackson Hayes was the fact that I think in the end of the season he would play good defense without fouling, just staying straight up,
mm-hmm,
and then also on offense, lob threat. Like
mm-hmm,
he was getting 10 points,
mm-hmm,
which that 10 points is huge to come
mm-hmm,
from him, especially
mm-hmm,
lob threat. Keep the defender on Luka honest. If you're gonna stay with him, give it to Jackson. If you're gonna stay with
mm-hmm.
Jackson, Luka's a great finisher.
No.
And so to me, I was like not as as worried. But then Jackson Hayes got exposed in the Timberwolves series. And when that trade first came out, I was, they gave up a first round pick and then they gave up Dalton Connect. And I was like, well, you basically gave up 2 first round picks because Dalton Connect was our first round pick. And so I was a little bit like, damn, they kind of overpaid for Mark Williams.
I mean, but Mark Williams is young.
And
I think that's the only
yeah,
thing is like you got to take into granted is he's a young player, so you do have to give up a little more capital for someone that's in their young 20s.
yes. And I think where I was hesitant and like maybe like not as like I was kind of happy in a way that they vetoed the trade because I thought they overpaid was because I thought Dalton Connect provided a very good scoring punch off the bench for us.
100%. Yeah.
And I think he's a 3-level scorer. He's got a mid-range of 3 and he can get to the hoop and finish. Like he can put it down.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, he was not played in the playoffs. So if you know you're not going to play this guy, maybe they didn't know, but if you know that because he does lack defensive abilities, but if you think you're not going to play him because you got Reeves, you got Hachimura, you got Dorian Finney-Smith, you got Vanderbilt, you got Luka, you got Gabe Vincent, all these guys you can play ahead of him, right? Well, I mean, he's not competing with those guys, but
I know.
if you got all these players that you're playing
they
ahead
all
of
have
him,
minutes. They're all
then Mark Williams, why did they veto it? I know it was because of his physical, but I think that's there's a little bit of a conspiracy hokey pokey behind that, but it's just like disappointing.
I mentioned this in an earlier one, but I think Jackson Hayes is a great backup center. He's a great backup center. I think he's perfect as the backup role. That's I think that's his ceiling in the NBA, and I think that's where he is right now. He's in his prime, and I think with the Lakers having a full time, they're finally going to get a center. They're going to address it in the offseason. Like Pelinka addressed it in the trade deadline. But like literally, he did. That's the other issue. It's not like he didn't address the issue. It's like he did address the issue. It just wasn't his fault. So like he's going to address the issue. I think Jackson Hayes is a perfect backup, and I think it's going to be able to add a little more flexibility to the team when you have the bigs. So because don't get me wrong, like I think in spurts, you can play Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5 or LeBron at the 5 or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
But when it's the entire game, you're going to get exposed.
Yeah, especially against a team like if we would have had to advance to the conference finals against a team like OKC. I mean, holy moly, we would be exposed at the wazoo.
Yeah. Well,
and then even against the Timberwolves, we got exposed because all their players were like 6'9" or above.
And I think you kind of saw
no size.
You kind of saw the same thing from the Warriors in their series. You know what I mean? Like I think Draymond can play center. You know what I mean? Like when you think about it, like think about back in the day when the Rockets, they rolled out PJ Tucker at the 5. Like it's similar to that, but it's like those teams only have so high of a ceiling. Yeah. And, I think that's, and that's the thing is like the Timberwolves have dealt with like 2 undersized teams in the first 2 rounds. And now they're facing the Thunder who are like,
who match them in that size
big,
component.
They match them and they're more flexible, I think.
And they're deep too. And their guards are insane defensively to match against. They held Anthony Edwards scoreless in the fourth quarter.
Right. Yeah. So
it's crazy.
But to get back to the Lakers, the first thing is address the center hole because I think the roster looks great besides that, and you don't need a guy that's crazy good. I'm not expecting a guy Mark Williams level. Like just need a solid starter because LeBron and Luka are going to carry the weight. LeBron's going to come back for another year. There's no way he's going to lead. He's going to give himself a full season with Luka. I think you can agree with that. He's got to at least give himself a full season with Luka to be able to do that. And then Reeves has come alive. I think that's one thing that's kind of gone under the radar is Reeves had his best season yet, in my opinion. Yeah. He's really emerged as that, third. There was debates where people were saying, is he the best third option in the league? Which I don't know. I think that's another topic for another day. But the fact, he's developing. He's shifty, can score at all 3 levels, in my opinion. Can take the shot in the clutch moments. So, I think we have the core, and LeBron's going to leave soon. The time is almost up. But the core is, it's definitely like going into the season. Like I feel better now than compared to the beginning of the season because now we have Luka Doncic. We actually have the franchise guy. I think the talk about Anthony Davis was like, was he going to be the franchise guy? Because yes, he's that quality level of player, but is he a number one option on a championship team? And is he going to stay healthy the entire time? So definitely feel better about how things are now compared to where we were about a year ago. But, still a couple things to figure out. Hopefully we can address that hole in our starting lineup and, make a better run next year, because I think we
Yeah.
could do better than that. And we played great at the end of the season. So it was definitely disappointing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the free agents on the expected free agents in the center market.
Mm-hmm.
And the list goes Miles Turner, who I think would obviously be a great addition, but I don't think he's leaving Indiana,
No, I don't
especially
think.
after
I think
back-to-back Eastern
his
Conference Finals.
time. He there was, I think back like a year or two ago, maybe even more. Like he was always in the trade rumors, but like he's like,
He wants to stay.
he's somehow ended up staying with Indiana the entire time, and I think the ship has sailed there. So I think that Indiana will find a way.
And I think the only way that Miles Turner would leave the Pacers is if he's able to get more money, because I think the Pacers are not going to be able to pay him what he wants and what he has. Like, the reason why they haven't had an extension is because he's going to cost too much money for the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he would consider taking a pay cut to stay with them, especially considering they've made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, both back-to-back years, and now, winning game one. What happens the rest of the season? But also, if he leaves for a higher payday, the Lakers can't give him that.
Yeah.
So he's not coming to
I
Lakers.
think he's out of the price range anyways.
Yeah. So the next option is Naz Reid, who, again, I don't think leaves Minnesota.
I just don't know if that's a really good fit.
Right. He's not a physically opposing big either.
Yeah, he's very I think
he's a 3-point shooter. He's good. He's incredible. I mean, he won 6th Man of the Year last year.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think he leaves Minnesota because, I don't know if you know this, but apparently, so Minnesota fans love Naz Reid.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently in Minneapolis, I assume they're located. If you're a Timberwolves fan, right, and you see another person who is a Timberwolves fan, like maybe they're wearing a hat, a jersey, they greet each other by saying Naz Reid. They're like, Naz Reid.
That's insane.
It's crazy. But it's like, he's very beloved by their fans, and I think he enjoys being there, and especially them going back to back Western Conference Finals.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what happens the rest of the season? He probably stays.
Yeah, I think the criticism with the first two options are they're both still playing on teams that can win the finals. So I think realistically we're gonna have to be getting a guy that's on a below average team, or maybe doesn't really have a role with the team. You know what I mean?
So the next few would be a couple of old heads, Brook Lopez or Al Horford. Now, Brook Lopez is intriguing from a standpoint where he's big, he's physically imposing, he can hit the 3-ball.
He's played for the Lakers before,
he's good at defense,
and he's also has championship experience.
Downside is he'll probably be kind of pricey, as well as he's old.
I think the Lakers would be more interested in more a big that's a bit more athletic, especially with Luka's play style.
Yeah, a lob threat, but it doesn't really get more athletic here. Al Horford, who old and also probably doesn't leave Boston.
Yeah,
he's going to finish his career there. But the one, and then another buck, Bobby Portis, but undersized. But this is the one that intrigues me, right here. I'm saving it for last. Mo Wagner from the Orlando Magic. Now, he's played really well for the Magic the past 2 seasons, and he's not necessarily. The issue is he's not necessarily a giant, but he's physically imposing.
Yeah,
and he's got that charisma. He's got that energy that he brings. The only thing also against that is the fact that he's playing with his brother, Franz Wagner, and he probably doesn't leave the Magic.
Well, I think
also
he did start his career at the Lakers.
He did, and we traded. It's all these good players start their career with the Lakers, but the Lakers are like
Dude, like
win now, win
Zubac.
now, win now. So they get rid of all the young talent, and now look, Josh Hart is in the Eastern Conference Finals. Mo Wagner playing great for the Magic, coming off the bench. I mean, there's all these like Brandon Ingram. He's been injured, but he's playing great. And all these players, you see them
Dude,
go.
the underrated one was Zubac because
Yes,
you got to deal with them
because
all
we
the
traded
time
him
now.
for a bag of. We traded him away for a bag of chips.
No, you know what the bag of chips were? The bag of
Yeah,
chips
Mike
were Mike
Muscala.
Muscala.
Mike
Yeah,
Muscala, bro. Mike Muscala.
dude, because I remember watching a
We had to get
Clippers
rid of a
Lakers
roster
game.
spot.
I was watching Clippers Lakers game earlier. I think it was like a month ago, and Zubac
Yeah.
just went off.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having Jackson Hayes, but like,
That'd
I
be
mean,
great to have. Zubac was a defensive player of the year candidate. I didn't even know that.
yeah,
But he was apparently a
he
defensive.
turned it up. He turned it up.
If we had him, that would be incredible. It would be incredible. But yeah, it's.
But that was such a long time ago. The timelines are crazy because it was like before even.
But I will say this: when Zubac got traded, he was playing well, like in the minutes that he got. The reason why we traded him is I think we traded him along with, I want to say, like Michael Beasley or like someone that was on our roster. We traded 2 for 1 for Muscala because we wanted to free up a roster spot to be in the buyout market. And so it was like this, again, a short-term play that the Lakers are famous for. Lakers are famous for making these short-term plays, trading away their young talent to get something to happen now. And I don't even know who they signed with that roster spot. They probably brought on like DeMarcus Cousins or something. And it's, but, signing someone like that, a has-been at the time that you hope could do something for you. But, I mean, yeah. Lakers get a 3 seed. Every ESPN analyst picked the Lakers to beat the Timberwolves in the first round.
Lakers.
And we lost. It was Wolves in 5. So yeah, not a good end of the season. Hopefully the off season treats us well. And I think LeBron plays one more season, and to give this Luka Doncic another try, this duo. But I think especially if it doesn't go well next season, and even if it does, if it doesn't go well, he's probably like, okay, my time has come. And if it does go well, if he wins a championship next season with the Lakers, he's going to retire on a high note. He said he's wanted to retire while he's still playing.
I mean, he already got a
high level.
Ronnie, so like that's checked off the list. So
yeah, and he doesn't want to, be forced out of the league, which I don't think he ever would be because he's a LeBron. But like he wants to end it on his own terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think either way the cookie crumbles next season. I think he calls it quits.
Mm-hmm. Interesting take. I'm interested to see what happens, but flip over, talk a little bit about a little bit about the NFL draft. Nothing crazy, I don't think. I mean, first thing is Cam Ward went first overall. That was kind of a no-brainer. Titans needed a quarterback. I mean, generally, I think the quarterback class is pretty weak for this year. I think that's why you kind of saw like a hesitancy to draft quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
So you didn't really see like too many early picks, but Cam Ward to the Titans, no-brainer. I mean, Travis Hunter to the Jaguars. I mean, the Jaguars did what they needed to do. They traded up with the Browns, and they got who they wanted. I mean, that's the most interesting player out of the draft. Obviously, I mean, we've never seen a player like him, two-way player. Two-way player as a skill position is insane because, I mean, sometimes you could get little two-way guys, that can play on both ends of the line. But, both ways skill position is pretty insane. So, I mean, hopefully the Jaguars don't mess it up because, I mean, I feel like they could be a franchise that could mess it up, but I really hope they don't because he's really insane.
I mean, yeah, they could have one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, Brian Thomas, who played phenomenally last year.
I thought you were about to say Christian Kirk.
No. And then Travis Hunter.
That's a good core. That is a good receiving core right there. I mean,
Christian Kirk is your wide receiver 3.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence there, it's a little questionable. He needs to pick it up next season because he definitely had a down season. I mean, the team playing bad didn't really help, but like at the end of the day, the team runs to the quarterback. So
yeah, I think from a winning standpoint, it's gonna, they're gonna have to rely on Trevor Lawrence to step up because
Well, he
he's
can.
hasn't.
He's led the team to the playoffs before, and I think his division is, it's definitely one of the weaker divisions in
Yeah,
the
it's the
NFL.
weakest.
So it's definitely doable. But like, come on, you got your guy, you have your quarterback. Let's step it up a notch and see what happens.
Yeah.
Other quarterbacks,
The
I mean,
biggest story of the draft was Shador
yeah, Shador. I mean, that was insane.
falling
I mean,
to what, the fifth round?
he wasn't even the first quarterback drafted by the Browns. It was they drafted Dylan Gabriel, who I don't think is very good. So that is
Yeah, well,
craziness.
I
That
saw a post. It was like they were making fun of the Browns because the Browns have been historically known to have suffered through all these quarterbacks over a
mhm.
span of like 20 plus years. And in a draft where the quarterback class has arguably been the weakest it has been in the past few years, they drafted two. So it's like, it's kind of,
I mean, to be
Browns like.
fair, like I think it's a fifth round pick, so it's like he's not, he doesn't have as
Yeah.
high
And that's what
expectations
they
as
said.
at that point you got to take a flyer because like he does have some talent. It's just is he mentally capable of being an NFL quarterback?
Yeah.
And I mean, based on what we've seen so far, I mean, he absolutely blew it during the NFL Combine season where you're interviewing with teams and like he's taking personal calls in meetings and you're hearing all this stuff and it's like of course he's a red flag. Like honestly, I thought I was surprised, but then like thinking about it, it's like honestly I'm not that surprised. Like teams don't want to take a chance on this dude.
Yeah.
Like I mean he was projected to be a top pick,
Well,
months
the
ago.
Browns were
Hmm.
like, people were debating whether the Browns would take him number two overall,
Yeah,
and then
right.
they traded out of
Thank
that
God
spot.
they didn't. But
But I mean, yeah,
time
crazy.
will tell. I think another interesting pickup is Jackson Dart to the Giants because I mean the Giants are trying, man. The Giants are trying. You got to give them some sort of credit because not only did they draft Jackson Dart, but they signed Russell Wilson, they signed Jameis Winston, they still got Tommy DeVito. So they're actually trying to, yeah. Come on, Mr. Cutlets. You can't forget about Mr. Cutlets, bro. If they cut Cutlets, dude, I'm gonna be pissed. But like, they're trying to figure something out. They're like, we need a competent quarterback because like Daniel Jones, like that was a mess. That was a fuck up. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it was a fuck up. Like, not only did they like stick with him for so long, but they signed him to that contract. Like,
Yeah,
holy hell. So interested to see what happens over there because that quarterback room is interesting. And then one other thing is no team for Rodgers yet.
yeah.
That's kind of
Rogers. I mean,
interesting.
I think the only team at this point, and it's been the only team that he's been really linked to recently, is the Steelers
Hmm.
because their QB1 is Mason Rudolph right now.
Hmm.
After trading for DK Metcalf too, but then trading away Pickens. I mean, the Steelers are.
Yeah,
It's been crazy. But then
and
they drafted Will Howard from
their
Ohio
quarterbacks are
State.
Will Howard and Mason Rudolph. I mean, I'm friends with Steelers fans, and they're like, Will Howard's gonna be amazing. It's like, dude, like, calm down. Like,
They thought that with Kenny Pickett too. So it's like,
the Browns drafted Shador over Will Howard. Like, come on, let's take a break. Hit the brakes.
yeah.
But and I mean, it looks like Mason Rudolph's gonna be starting games to start the season, which is like
But it's also like,
craziness.
as bad as their QB room is,
They're gonna find
like,
a
I
way.
really don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to fix things.
No,
He couldn't with the
I
Jets,
think
and
he should retire.
the Jets had a talented roster. Now their O line was their own line, which I think it was improved from the season prior where he tore his Achilles. But like, Aaron Rodgers is a bunch of negative aura. Negative
All I've
aura.
heard,
He's like
some rumors
too
that I've
self
heard was
centered.
like he doesn't want to go through training camp, so like he'll sign like after training camp. But like, I don't know
But you
about
got to go through training camp, bro. You got to prep with your boys. Like, you got to figure it out. You got to get your rhythm down. I don't know.
that. Yeah,
It's
I well
pretty
also
selfish, and like, I wouldn't want any part
yeah.
of that if I'm the Steelers.
Well, we mentioned Aaron Rodgers should retire, but there's also a quarterback that did retire, Mr. Derek
Yes.
Carr. Um, I think that just Mr. Average, man. I think that's just the perfect way to put it. Like he was,
Yeah.
he was good, not great, not bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, he's pretty one-dimensional as a quarterback. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he ever ran the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even look to. He'd have crazy games where he'd have like 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, but he'd end with like 16 fantasy points. It's like, bro, if you put, you know,
That's the legacy left in Justin's mind is the fantasy points that he produced.
I
That's
mean, he'd have like, you look at his stat line, you think like, damn, he should probably have like 30 points, but he's not doing anything else. He's sitting back there and he's throwing a ball. He's not adding any value anywhere else. And like, I think, yeah, Mr. Average.
well,
He
enjoy your
never really did
retirement, Derek
much.
Carr. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Deserved retirement. So, but that's the thing. The Saints, their quarterback group is worse.
I don't think anybody on their roster has a single win.
Well, they drafted Tyler Shaw from Louisville.
Yeah.
His
But
notable
he's a
clip went
rookie.
through for totally missing a receiver during the combine, and he's like 25. They got him. They got Jake Hayner. They got Spencer Rattler. I think they're tanking for Arch. I think they. I don't think
But
the Saints
if
are
they're
trying to
tanking
hide
for
it,
Arch,
man.
why do they draft
Dude,
Tyler?
and you're gonna see them on like three. You're gonna see them on like 3 Thursday night football games this year again, which like screw that, man. Like stop putting the Saints on Thursday night football. I don't want to watch that.
I
So,
know.
but I mean, the quarterback class is a little more interesting. So I think you saw some teams. I think a lot of teams that could have. I think if you kind of had like a better QB draft class, I think you could have seen more quarterbacks address their QB. Not issues, but QB concerns. So I think you'll see that a bit next year, but I think this year I think is just a little more conservative on the quarterbacks, just because it's not a great class. I think Cam Ward's just the only guy that's NFL starter.
Yeah, but I'd say like I feel like a decent amount of quarterbacks still got drafted.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like that's every year as well. Like I think teams are always going to be drafting quarterbacks because you never know who you're going to get. And I could be wrong. One of these quarterbacks that's drafted in the class in the later rounds could always, Shador could be insane. I mean, who knows? You never know. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like generally. I mean, you're looking in like year before you got Bryce Young and Jaden Daniels, a lot of other
Right.
Drake May, and think about how many quarterbacks are usually drafted pretty early. So I mean, it's just
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
just generally it's just like a down year for quarterbacks. So, but
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
but we probably won't talk more football until we get closer to the season because I think we've addressed all the offseason moves before, and um, the draft just happened. It was probably almost a month ago, right? Yeah, it was a while ago, but
Yeah, I
about it.
think it was
But
a month ago.
once we get closer to like the fantasy season, that's when we'll kind of go a little more in depth and
We'll
think.
dial in.
Yeah, you'll
We'll
see.
dial in.
Yeah,
But yeah, the only other news is for
I wanted
my
to save it
49
for you to announce, but
my 49ers signing Brock Purdy to a 5-year, $265 million contract extension, including a $40 million signing bonus and $182.5 million guaranteed. He went from making practically nothing to getting everything the 49ers have. And now I will say, like, Brock Purdy's he had a really good season. He had really good 2 seasons. He led us to the NFC Championship game. Then he got hurt, and we lost to the Eagles. The Eagles went on to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Then we made it to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. And then last season was ugly. And that's the only thing that kind of worries me about Purdy is last season we had a lot of inclement weather in our games, and he couldn't handle it.
his
His
hands might be too
hands
small.
were too small. Now I think he's still a great quarterback, and I think especially in a 49ers offense, I think a quarterback I would say, is generally easier for them to excel.
I feel like you're set up for success. Like you're not guaranteed success, but you're set up for success.
And Adam Schefter said that the NFL believes in the 49ers. Or at least it's implied that they believe in the 49ers given how easy of a schedule they gave the 49ers this season. We have, from a winning percentage standpoint, meaning the opponent's winning percentage last season, we have the easiest schedule out of all 32 NFL teams. And
Now you
so
have to win the division.
if you're paying Brock
You
Purdy
have
all
to.
this money, they better crush this season.
I mean,
Now,
they
I
paid
will
Dak
say,
Prescott the same thing, and look what happened
yeah,
here. It's just the quarterback market. If you want to keep your guy, you got to pay.
yeah, and I think, I mean, one, they given their schedule this season, they need to return to the playoffs. They need to excel. Brock Purdy needs to excel, and if he struggles, boy oh boy, are the Niners in a tough pickle. But also, even with what's supposed to be an easy schedule, I'm worried about my Niners. We have a lot of holes that need to be addressed, and I think we addressed some of them in the draft, drafting 2 defensive linemen, which we struggled against the run, and we struggled against getting pressure on the quarterback, especially when Nick Bosa was dealing with injury. He didn't have anybody to tag team. We lost several games because we gave the quarterback literally like 3 hours to sit back in the pocket. And so we'll see. We'll see. They also extended Fred Warner, which, I mean, I love Fred Warner. Great player. Great player to have on your team as a linebacker, quarterback in that defense. And I think we got the offensive skill position talent, but it's whether or not Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
George Kittle is getting older. He's always banged up. Brandon Ayuk coming back from a torn ACL. We traded away Debo, which I'm not upset about. He was not really doing anything for us. But it'll be an interesting season.
I think Jawan Jennings can be wide receiver 1 caliber. I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
hot
I mean,
take or not, but
well,
that's what his agent's saying. They say he's ready to. I mean, he's got the talent, man. Like some of the games he had last season, some of the plays he was making, are
yeah,
it is that.
but he had those games not being technically not being the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, but you got your wide receiver 1 in Ayuk, so
well, if he comes back, Ayuk played terribly when he was healthy last season. So, but yes,
Yeah, but
I really like Jawan
he
Jennings.
held out. He didn't even have
He's a great player.
He didn't have a training camp. That's where he messed up because he wasn't able to get the reps in, and then your body's not ready, and injuries happen. And I'm not saying it's because of that, but I mean it just doesn't help.
Yeah. So we got a quarterback. Hopefully our guys come back healthy. Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, Jawan. I do really like Jawan Jennings. I think he's a great player, and he's got a tenacity and a fight. He's going for every yard. And so far it hasn't hurt him doing that. But yeah, Niners easiest schedule, extended the players that they needed to extend, and hopefully we're back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the NFC is very good. I mean, you saw all the playoff teams in this last playoffs. Although the games were not necessarily that close. I mean, there are a ton of talent in the NFC, so it's gonna be tough, especially with the Rams upgrading at wide receiver with Devontae Adams. So, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. But
I think that wraps that up.
I think so. Wraps up episode 19 of the Just Tone In podcast. Lots more basketball to come still. And ramping up towards the NFL season. So stay tuned for episode 20 of the Just Tone In podcast. If you want to be a guest, let us know. That's all for episode 19 of Just Tone In Pod with your host, Justin Mazzola, and the
Adam Honer.
Deuces.